Yo, what's going on, guys? I just wanted to make a quick video today about a topic that's very, very important, and it's about how do you find consistency in trading, right? Like, how do you go from break even or unprofitable to profitable? Okay, and the reason why this is so hard isn't because trading is necessarily hard, it's because humans have been designed through the schooling system or even for thousands of years in Jewish society is that there's either a right answer or there's a wrong answer, right? And in trading, trading doesn't work like that, right? Like you can be right and be wrong, and you can be wrong and you can be right. And for 99% of people, that's a very, very foreign concept, right? So today we're going to talk about how you can combat that, sociological and biological impulse to feel like you're doing something wrong when you're not, and how to actually focus on the things that matter, right? And to kind of give you some history here, so I was in the sales world, okay? And sales is a lot like trading, right? I always say there's three categories of jobs, right? The first one's a 9 to 5 where you clock in, you do mid-level work, right? Just enough to not get fired, you get a paycheck. The second type of job is like a sales job. It's where if you go to work and you don't perform, you make no money. And then third type of category is like when you're working with something on the line, right? With your income on the line, like trading. Trading, if you show up to work and you have a mediocre performance, not only do you not make money, you actually lose money. So that third category is extremely hard. But being somebody that came from the second category, and working for a company who was $1 billion company, and my job was, sole responsibility to help bring in that revenue for the company. My specific office did $100 million a year, and that was between about 40 sales reps, right? So 35 to 40 sales reps were responsible for trying to generate $100 million a year. And I was in that group. And, when you're doing that, it's not easy, right? You end up trying to sell somebody something for 2, 3, 4 days in a row, and you get no sales. And then on Friday you get a big sale, and it's like, wow, like my man, I made so much money this week, but you had to endure losing on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, right? So it's like, wow, how do you not hurt your psychology and know that, man, I've been working for a week, maybe even 2 weeks, and made no money? Like, how do you succeed in that environment? And this company that I worked for created a fantastic system designed around succeeding in that environment, right? So I'm going to teach it to you guys today, and it's nothing groundbreaking, but it's what you need to do, right? Because on my Discord, I post my P&L every day. Some of us do as well, and P&L is great, but it only tells half the story. So to give one more analogy, right? I don't want to rant too long, but there's a famous pitcher called, I believe his name was Greg Maddux. And when I started this sales job, we all had to read this article on Greg Maddux. And Greg Maddux was a baseball player. He was one of the best pitchers of all time. And it was an article about him and his coach. And after every single game, the pitcher had one job. And that job was to go to his coach and say, hey, I threw 50 balls, right? 50 pitches, and 44 of them were exactly how I intended, right? This game, hey, I threw, 60 pitches, 54 of them were exactly how I intended. And that was his only job. It wasn't to win. It wasn't to lose, because whether you win or lose is out of your control. The only thing that matters is, are you throwing high accuracy pitches? That's it. Okay, so we're going to talk about how you do that in trading, and to show you some examples. Okay, so the way that we did this at my sales job that worked really, really well is you start with 3 to about 5 checklist. Okay, and as long as you hit these points, it doesn't matter if you win or lose, because over the long run you're going to be successful. Okay, so in the trading world, me, I'm a big continuation trader, right? So if you've been watching my videos, you can see here that on the daily time frame, we just got our retest. I always look for retests, and then I just look for lower time frame shifts to play that continuation. And you can see here, after we hit our levels, you can see on YM, right? We broke out, market structure shift, ran these highs, and then we're producing higher highs, or excuse me, higher low, higher high, higher low, and that is the market structure shift shifting above. So breaking back above this level, right? I would not, this is a decent trade, right? And that's kind of my system, right? So I'm going to show you how I would build this checklist and how I would build this system for my particular trading style. And then I would highly recommend you do the exact same. Okay. So for me, and if you're posting P&L in the Discord, you have to absolutely do this. If you're not posting P&L in the Discord, I highly recommend you start using this as a checklist. So even if you don't want to post your P&L, still make this checklist and put it inside of the Discord. Okay, hold yourself accountable. So, for me, my first trade that the first step that I must have inside of my checklist, okay, is I have to have. Actually, let's do this in Notepad, so it's a little bit easier. Because I don't want to do it in Paint. It's going to take a little while in Paint. So here we go. So the first step is step one is, I need to have that daily 4-hour or 1-hour retest. Okay. That is a must. This is a non-negotiable. As you can see here on YM, the trade, we didn't FOMO and buy here at the highs. We waited for a retest of these levels and then went long, right? Same thing that, we've been doing constantly. You can see here, right? Like if you think price is bullish, don't FOMO into this high, wait for price to retest down, look for a lower market structure shift and buy. And it's the exact same thing here, right? Right, you wait for that market structure shift, you buy with a 1-to-1 risk to reward. If you try to get more than a 1-to-1 here, you would have got stopped out, but that's okay because you would have made obviously more R along the way. But if you're going for that 1-to-1, like I recommend to keep your psychology high and your win rate high, right? You'd put your target up here and then stop way below here for your 1-to-1. So yeah, I'm looking for that daily, that 4-hour or that 1-hour retest. That's non-negotiable. Okay. If I don't follow this rule, then there's no reason for me to continue trading, right? Because profits and losses are not random. It comes from consistency and sticking to a process-oriented approach, right? Where you can, if you're playing basketball, you can score 60 points and still lose the game, right? And you can score 10 points and win the game, right? That variation is going to happen at the highest level of anything that you do. So you have to stick to your process because you can just blindly follow this checklist and stick to it and make money. Okay. I could show this checklist to one person and they become very wealthy. I can show this checklist to another person and they don't. And the only difference is the discipline to stick to the process. Okay. So this is kind of how we did it at our sales job. So I'll just build it out here for the trading worlds, right? So for me personally, I'm looking for a daily 4-hour or the 1-hour retest. We don't get that, we don't take a trade. I don't care if I'm going to make 500K off this trade, doesn't matter. I'm sticking to this process and I'm not breaking it. Okay. Step 2 is going to be lower time frame market structure shift. Or we'll do lower time frame break and retest. Continuation, like this, right? All right. So what does that mean? Right, so I'll show you guys an example of that. So for me personally, I need a lower time frame break and retest for continuation. So what that means, right, is Nasdaq had a beautiful trade. I think it was yesterday off the 4-hour time frame. Was it yesterday or not? Let me see. Was it the 1-hour time frame? Yeah, perfect. So on the 1-hour, you can see here that it was 2 days ago. You can see here that we had my retest level that I drew out, right? Because I'm not buying the highs here. I'm waiting for price to pull back and kind of create that bull flag, right? Oops, sorry. Right, that bull flag like this, right? I'm trying to wait for that retest and then look for the market structure shift down here to get the continuation. All right, so here would be, okay, hey, I hit the first step, which is the daily, the 4-hour or the 1-hour retest. The second is I need to go down to the 5 or the 15 minute. And let's actually even add that to our checklist because you want to be as descriptive as possible. You don't want to leave anything to ambiguity. You don't want it to be ambiguous. You want to make sure that it's very, very, very solid, and it needs to be things that you can hold yourself accountable to. Okay, it needs to be very, very obvious. Some people will set goals like, uh, drink water before trading, right? Just as an example. But if you're, it's very hard to hold yourself accountable to the Discord if you're not posting pictures of drinking water. So you want to make sure that you're putting things where you can hold yourself accountable, and even if somebody else is going to look over your shoulder, they can too. That makes the system much stronger, right? So you can see here on the trade on Nasdaq, we can see here. Let's actually word this better. Lower time frame, market structure shift, flash break, and retest. Okay, so it's just a lower time frame market shift / break and retest, and you can see here. Let's go to the 15. You can see here that we're making these lower highs, right, which is bearishness, and out of nowhere we make this higher high, right? And what happens? Price breaks, retests this level, fails to go lower, and then pushes higher, and now that officially marks our trade idea for step 2, right? So we waited for that retest, we waited for a market structure shift. You can see here that yes, we did go higher here, but there's never really a break and retest. This is more like little miniature highs, right, that are kind of irrelevant, just kind of 2 legs up going lower. But you want to see bigger structure changes. Like once we run this high here, right where this gray box is, and we push up, that's an actual structure change. And you can kind of see here that we broke this trend line here, which is like setting up for a bull flag, right? So I'm looking for that lower time frame market structure shift. I'm also looking for that same break and retest logic to go higher. Okay, now let's continue. So step 3, what I'm looking for is once the trade is placed, don't touch it. Okay. The trading system that I trade has a very, very high win rate. And, this week, like I have taken losses that I just shouldn't have taken simply because I touched my trades, right? I've been a little sick. I've been a little bit under the weather. And I think it's caused me to not deal with the emotions of trading well, right? Like when you're in a trade and you're watching it come down to your stop loss and then go back up, come back down to your stop loss. And, when you're nauseous, man, do you really feel those emotions? And, because I didn't have a strong rule for not touching the trade, I touched the trades. And guess what? I lost R this week when I just shouldn't have. So for me, right, this is a trade that I'm putting. If you want to do another management system, you can. But once the trade is placed, you just don't touch it. That's it. Like if you have an edge and your edge wins over time, do not touch it. I know my system works very, very well. The win rate's really, really good. There's no reason to touch it. I just need to win with 1-to-1 over 55% of the time. I know my system does that, so there's no reason to go break even. And the reason why I say for me, I'm not going to go break even, because some people disagree with that. But my logic is, sure, when you go break even, sometimes trades come back on you and you get to get out of a losing trade for free. That's the best feeling in the world. Like, oh man, I would have been down, 1%, 1R if that came back and stopped me out. But luckily I went break even. But there's an opposite side to that, which is price comes back, hits your break even, and then goes right to your target. And for me, the high and the feeling of euphoria you get from the price hitting your break even and you not having a loser, that doesn't feel good enough to outweigh the fact that I would have made money today if I just didn't mess up my trade. And for some people, that's the opposite. For some people, they'd rather get out of a winning trade than to lose. For me, that's not me, because I know my system has a high win rate. I know it works really well. I just need to let the damn thing play out. I would much rather lose money on this trade than to get out, break even on a winning trade. It's a psychology thing, right? If I lose a trade, it's okay. I can still sleep at night because I know, hey, that's just a part of the system. But getting out of a trade with a break even or slight loss when I know it's a winner, that keeps me up at night. And it's just about understanding yourself and knowing what type of trader you are. Okay. So that's 3. Once the trade is placed, you don't touch it. Okay. And a good example of that is I took a winning trade today and I got out of the trade for about almost a 1 hour loss. And then the trade immediately worked. Right. I'm just not feeling well. And because I didn't have these strong rules and these process oriented things, I got emotional and that happens. Right. So step 4 is risk 250 on PA accounts, right? Which is your your funded accounts, and then maybe depending on you know what size accounts like what size account that you're trading for evals, you can change these numbers around. But for me, right, if I'm trading a 50K account, I want to try to lock in 250 every day, 250, 250, 250, 250, and I want to be right 3 to 4 times, 3 to 4 times a week, right? So risk 250 on PA accounts and risk 500 on evals, and then we'll do in the same thing, 1 trade per day. So 1 trade per day, and then now that I'm just gonna shorten this a little bit. So 1 trade per day, risk 250 PA, risk 500 eval, and that's it, right? So this right here is the checklist. I do not care if the trade wins. I do not care if the trade loses. The only thing I care about is following every single step here, because without it, you're screwed. If you don't wait for that correction, that retest to happen, then you're probably entering too early and you're going to get stopped out. If you don't wait for the market structure shift or the break and retest, then you're not looking for confirmation of continuation. If you touch your trade and move break even, at least in my circumstance, you're undermining the win rate of the system. And every trade is going to run right to target, right? Some trades are going to come 1 to 2 ticks away from your stop loss and then dive or jump up right to your profit target, right? That's normal. But if you start to touch your trades, what happens? You have all these random deviations and headaches and stress. I'm not looking to mess with all that. Some traders like that system. I don't. That's just knowing myself. The other one is 1 trade per day, risking 250 on a PA, $500 on eval. If I build up 10, 20 funded accounts, risking 250 to make 250, and I'm right 3 days out of 5, I have a very, very profitable system, and I'll be able to pull out as much money from the market as I could possibly ever dream. Okay, so super, super simple. Today, I lost, right? I lost. Why did I lose? Well, let's take a look. Did I wait for the daily 4-hour or 1-hour retest? Yes. Did I wait for the lower time frame market structure shift, break and retest on the 15-minute or 5-minute? I did, right? And I'll show you the exact trade setup that I was looking at today. And the setup that I was looking for was right here, right? If you look on the daily time frame, super simple. We have this big break, bearish candle, right? We had a market structure shift on the daily time frame. We retested that market structure shift and tanked, which means that we're looking to take out this low, right? So I went on the hourly looking for an entry. I see here, okay, we have a break here, breakout. I'm just waiting for, now we have a breakout here. I'm just waiting for that retest, that correction. And then once we break back below there with the market structure shift, I want to see price first take out this low and then come down here to take out that low. That's exactly what happened, right? Yet I lost, right? If you went on the 5-minute, you can see here, right here, we have our market structure shifts right here, right? We have a high, higher low, lower high, lower low, lower high, boom, we break out below. There's your market structure shift confirmation to the downside, right? However, I started to look at all these other things while I'm in the trade. Well, the 4-hour could be this. Well, does this supported by this time frame? And I got in my head. And then when we had this correction here, I told myself, oh, we're making higher highs. I'm probably going to get stopped out. And what happened? It played out exactly what my system is designed, right? It's not my system, right? Tons of traders trade like this. But it's exactly how the system was supposed to perform, right? Everything went smoothly. The system did exactly what it's supposed to do, right? But it was me that messed it up. And that's why once the trade is placed, don't touch it. And that's why I put that there. 1 trade per day. Let's see here. If we go in daily P&L here, right? You can see my P&L here is 240. So because I messed with my trade, I lost, right? And, you know, I didn't follow my rules. Well, I didn't follow my rules. I didn't follow number 3, but I didn't follow number 4. So that for me is a 3 out of 5, right? Or not 3 out of 5, sorry. 3 out of 4. Yeah, just put 3 out of 4. And that's a 3 out of 4. That's not good enough. If you want to be elite, you can't be 3 out of 4, because 3 out of 4 is a difference between, 4 out of 4 and 3 out of 4 is a difference between being break even and profitable, or unprofitable and profitable, right? Like, I had a fantastic month last month, and this month has been fantastic too. But guess what? I'm starting to slip. Yesterday was the same thing. I started to touch my trades, and I had trades yesterday that worked. And I still ended the day red because I'm not following my checklist. 3 out of 4 is not good enough. It has to be 4 out of 4 every single day. And if you can't hold yourself to that standard, then you just shouldn't be trading, right? So I highly, highly recommend that you build this checklist for yourself, right? And here is a perfect example. I'll now update exactly what I want to see, guys, inside the P&L, okay? So in here, I'll edit this. Let's actually edit this here. What I'll actually do is I'll repost it, right? So let me just come here. I'll copy this image, and this is how I want you guys posting it in the Discord, okay? So I want your checklist. Do not post your profits if you don't have a checklist. I'm going to be a stickler on you, okay? So here's this, and then we'll take this off. So did we wait for that daily and that 4-hour, that 1-hour retest? We did, okay. Did we wait for that lower time frame market structure shift? We did. Great job. Did I risk 1 trade per day, risking 250 on PAs? Yes, I did. Now, did I let the trade play out? And that's a big fat no. That's 3 out of 4. That's garbage. If you can't hit 4 out of 4, just do something else, right? And unfortunately, that's what happened, right? But if you just make a promise to yourself that every single day you are going to get, 3 out of 3 or 4 out of 4, however much is on your checklist, guys, you are going to see such a skyrocket in your performance, because you're now no longer an emotional trader. You're a systematic trader, right? You no longer care about your wins or your losses. You care about, hey, am I checking off every box? Right? Check boxes lead to accomplished goals. I was reading a book called Atomic Habits, and he makes a great point. He says everybody in the world has the exact same goals. The only difference is what they do in a day, right? So holding yourself accountable to doing the right things every day, regardless of if today's a good day or bad, is the only thing that matters, because it's the only thing you can control. All right. So hopefully, guys, I start to see you posting your P&Ls, or if you don't want to post your P&L, that's fine too, but definitely post your checklist every day, right? And it needs to be at all checks. And and if you're not being honest with yourself, if you have X's in there and you don't want to post because, you have X's and you're embarrassed, well, then you're just not going to win, right? You need to post your checklist every day in this section, and it needs to follow every single rule. And once you make this checklist, you need to stick with it for 30 to 60 days. There should be 0 changes, right? Because you need to give this checklist time to work. If after 30, 60 days, you don't like the results that you're getting, then you look at the checklist and you say, hey, is this the right checklist? Right? Like, is what I'm doing, what I'm doing, is it working? But, for 99% of people, that shouldn't be your first thought. You should need to get 2-3 months of data with a particular checklist and then address, right? And then look over it and see, hey, is this something you should do or not? All right. So hopefully this helps you guys. And I'm serious. I want to see P&Ls. I mean, I don't even care about P&Ls, but I want to see the checklist. But if you want to push your P&L with it too, that's great. So starting today, guys, every single post needs to have a checklist, and it needs to have the X's or the question marks. Irrefutable. I don't want to see P&Ls without that. Okay, because you can make $1,000 today and then lose $2,000 tomorrow. And what's the point? Right? Trading is all about position sizing anyway, right? And trying to take a 5K cash account and make $2,000 a day, it's not that impressive, because anybody can make $2,000 in a day with a 5K account once, right? But what are you doing every day? That's what matters, right? So I'll see you guys in the Discord. If you have any other questions, just ask there. All right, see you guys soon.